Welcome back. Welcome to the concluding part of this module for growth hacking and customer acquisition. In this module, we'll be looking at the Grouse method of growth hacking. This is the process that is typically used by popular and major growth managers in the world. Growth is a process, not just a combination of hacks and tricks. So we jump right into it. The growth process is simply an acronym for a five-stage cycle that we use to constantly run experiments and to constantly grow in any startup organization. The first stage is to gather ideas, which is where we have the G. The R stage is to rank the ideas that you are trying to that you've gathered together. And then when you've ranked the idea, the next stage is usually to outline your experiments, and then you get to work to go and actually experiment, and then you study your data, and then whatever you learn from that data feeds into another new idea that you're trying to use to grow anything. Remember, we talked about the one metric that matters per time, and this also comes to play here. What are you trying to grow? You may try to be growing something at the level of awareness, at the level of acquisition, at the level of activation, at the level of retention, at the level of revenue, at the level of referral, or whatever the case is. This is usually the steps process that we use. It's a five-step cycle process that we use. I was developed by Growth Tribe. It's a growth hacking education platform in the Netherlands, and it's being used generally in the world right now. So we just jump right into each of it very briefly. Just jump right into each of these five-stage process. As you can see here, the gather ideas include things like a lot of research, user testing, doing a lot of research, getting information from customer support, usability testing, user interviews. So when we say gather ideas, we do not mean just having random ideas. Remember that growth hacking is data-driven marketing. And then we rank the ideas. We also will use some frameworks under ranking of ideas, depending on what we are trying to growth hack. And then we have outlining of experiments. How do we outline our experiments? How do we know that what we think will work? Then how do we actually get things done? This is the point where you actually get shit done. And then you study your data. And then whatever you find from the studying of your data is what you input into the idea again. Okay, so let's jump into it. The first one is the gathering of the ideas, which is the letter G, gather ideas. This is the founder of that growth tribe, David Hanops. It says it's important because this is where you are going to create a huge backlog of every idea that you and your company has on how to improve this one metric. We like to use this technique called mindstorming, where everybody basically comes up with the ideas separately, and then during a meeting or online, we bring them all together. So this is the first stage right here, where you gather ideas to grow a particular metric. Yours might be KYC completion for a fintech app, for example. Why is it that we are not having a lot of people completing their KYC? And usually for a lot of fintech companies, if KYC is not completed, the banker cannot do anything, the user can't do anything. So it's important that they complete their KYC, because the KYC actually leads towards activation. Activation for a fintech app is probably something like their first transaction, or maybe depositing money into that particular finance app, right? But they can't deposit money if they do not complete KYC, because they are constantly be forced. And if people are not completing their KYC, you want to, what ideas do we use? Are people being distracted and all that? So always know the one metric that matters. But before you then gather ideas, remember I said this is not just about thinking about ideas and thinking, just brainstorming. No, it should be based on data. Where do we get ideas from, or where do we get strategy from? It can be based on your use case. Some of all the things we've talked about can give you ideas, right? Your use case, your personas, your value proposition canvas, your product market fit, your channel fit, your analytics dashboard. If you have various dashboards, for example, you have the Mixpanel dashboard, that's an analytics dashboard. You have Research Excel, and we're going to look at that very shortly. We have user surveys and interviews. Remember, I said you should talk to your customer or talk to your consumers constantly. Research and best practices. Maybe there's a research that is out there. Maybe somebody did something in the US. Can we use that same thing that was done in the US in Africa? And brainstorming. Then you have a lot of other ideation and thinking frameworks, right? And so, but before you even try to improve anything, it's important that you cover your bases. Usually, and sometimes people don't need any experiments. They don't need to protect anything. They just need to fix something that is wrong. And if you are trying to, if something is wrong in your process, something is wrong within your funnel, no matter how much you try to get ideas, because the problem is there and you're just looking for ideas instead of verifying and being very sure that there are no other issues before you protect the process. And that's why we use the Research Excel. The Research Excel process, framework helps us to know what to research about before we even start experimenting anything. Of course, any idea that you need to have for whatever metric that you're trying to measure, it has to be something that is desirable by humans. That means you're thinking for humans, right? It must affect your business. That's the business viability of that idea, and the impact. What will it impact? And then the feasibility. Do we have the technology to be able to do this particular thing? So that's usually the innovation sweet spot. Now, the Research Excel model is something that is developed by CXL, which is also another platform for learning, and it's a 7 point research framework that we use to check whether we have covered some bases before we begin to talk about trying to even experiment. So this again is covering your bases before you go into trying to even gather any idea, because you might be gathering unnecessary and unusable idea when you've not covered your bases. We go right into it very quickly. Remember, this is not about a list of tactics. You're not trying to look for a list of tactics. Um, you said the thing about it is that conversion optimization is not a list of tactics or a list of best case practices that, oh, this is what works within the industry, this is what works within fintech. No, no, your business is unique. Best case practices are most commonly practices anyway, not the best. So you won't increase the amount of tests that win by maintaining a list of tactics or trying them out on your site. It's not about, oh, let's try this one, maybe it will work. Oh, let's try this one, maybe it will work. No, 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 no. That's not how growth hacking works. It works uniquely for your own business. You don't have generic problems. You have specific problems to your own particular business, even if you have a competitor. So you must put that in mind. So the first one is usually the heuristic analysis, right? In the Research Excel model. And the heuristic analysis is the most basic thing you want to first of all find out when you are trying to check anything. You want to check out these things. Very, very important. The first thing is relevancy. Does the page or the screen within your app, does it meet the user expectation? If it's an e-commerce platform and they are supposed to add to cart, does the add to cart page, does it meet the user expectation, both in terms of the content and the design? Do they understand it? How can it match what they want even more? What do you think people want to see? You have to ask yourself those questions. How relevant is that screen? If you say a screen is supposed to be, you have a fintech app where the screen is supposed to be the place where they will add their card. Do you think what you are saying, even if it's a simple copy, had your card here, is it very clear? It has to be clear. That brings me to clarity. Is the content or the offer on this page or screen, is it as clear as possible? How can we make it clearer? Is it very clear? Are you using normal human language, common man language, or the language of your user? Is it very clear? Now, then you have value. Is it communicating the value to the user? Can we do better? Can we increase our user motivation? Is it motivating enough? What's the friction? What's on this particular page or screen is causing doubts? What on this particular page or screen is causing hesitation or uncertainties? What makes the process difficult? How can we simplify? We can't reduce friction entirely, but you can minimize friction, because usually there are frictions on pages. And then you have distractions also. What's on the page that is distracting the user? Is there another button somewhere on the page? Let's say, and it's for any one metric that matters, right? For any one metric that matters, you want to conduct all the searches for whatever you think you want to experiment on. If like again, I mentioned KYC the other time. That place where there's KYC, is there any other distraction? Can they click to another place? Is there anything causing a distraction there? You have to know, is anything unnecessarily drawing attention on that particular screen? If not motivation, it's friction. And thus, it might be a good idea to get rid of it. If it's not moving the user to the action that you are trying to improve upon, then you want to get rid of it. So that's the foundation of the Research Excel model. That's the first thing, which is your heuristic analysis. You want to make all this to be very, very clear, and you need to be very clear with yourself. Make sure that it's not done by just one person. If you can develop the questions into like an Excel sheet, take the person to the exact page or screen and ask this question. Let the person give you feedback about the question. It could be somebody within your startup also. And then you have the technical analysis. So don't even think about anything else until you fix all the technical stuff, like bugs. Is the screen slow? If there's any bug that is any technical issue at all, don't try to go and be running adverts, go and be getting people when you've not fixed it, right? You think your sites work perfectly, both in terms of user experience and functionality with every browser. Check it. Check it. Maybe you are using Safari and it's working well on Safari. If it's a web app, have you checked it out on Chrome? Have you checked it out on people who use Firefox? We have a lot of people in Nigeria that are still using Opera, and Opera is really pushing, they are pushing their platform. So you want to check, why is it that people are dropping off? Maybe there's huge conversion on Safari. Maybe there's huge conversion on Google Chrome, but maybe there's lesser conversion on Opera. So, and then, okay, that's if you believe that the people that are using Opera, for example, are your type of customers, right? So you want to check every technical detail, the speed, things like that. Is it hanging? You want to fix any bug. So technical analysis is always very important. Then you have the web analysis itself. What are people doing on this screen? What's their activity? What's the impact and performance of every future widget? Do you need to have this widget there? Do you need to have this feature on this particular screen? If it's also an app, where is the site or where is the app leaking money? So you can build like a funnel, like, okay, if you build a funnel map, for example, within Google Analytics 4, where you are trying to see, okay, where is the particular point where the site is actually leaking money? Okay, people come to the main page when they log in into the application. Okay, they are supposed to click on this, they're supposed to click on this, and then when they get to the fourth step, there seems to be a problem. Check it out using your web app analytics analysis. Maybe the most basic one is Google Analytics. You can also use Mixpanel or Amplitude. I use Mixpanel for apps. I've used UXCam also, because they also have such features that can help you to check your funnel. So you want to check, where is the bottleneck? This is also where you do your bottleneck analysis, right? So basically, your heuristic analysis and qualitative research are your best attempts to figuring out the why. The why. So analytics is more like what, where, and how much, right? What, where, and how much. That is what, when you're checking your web analytics, that's what that helps you to solve. So you have Google Analytics. You can always check your acquisition, check your engagement, check your monetization, check things like that, and then build funnels around that, and to see where there is an issue or where there's a drop off. And then you also have mouse tracking, which can be done a lot of time by some other softwares. For app, that won't be like mouse tracking, right? But you can check click tracking on app, and there are a lot of tools that you can use out there. This is now behavioral analysis. You need to see data is is the oil here, right? Because you can record what people do with their mouse trackpad, and you can quantify the information. So some of it might be useful. So it's very important to know that with A/B testing, you need enough sample size per screen or per page before you can trust any results. what's the general pattern of people on a particular screen within your app. You want to check that. And many people always want to wait, where maybe we've not grown as a startup or as an organization, or later we'll invest into this. Well, the truth about it is that if you wait for quite a long time, you are flying blind. You don't know. You are just making guesses. You are just saying, hey, why are people not doing this? Why are people not doing that? You are not sure. You are just doing guesswork. You are just bringing ideas without being sure. If you're going to grow tech anything at all, data is king. So you will need to invest into your marketing tech, even if you have to use the most minimal version. Mixpanel, for example, has a free version. Google Analytics has a free version. And there are some other tools like that that helps in mouse tracking or click tracking that are not super expensive like some other tools, right? So there are tools like Hotjar. If you're using like a web app, you can use Hotjar to check how people are, clicking both on mobile and on desktop. Hotjar is not for apps. Hotjar is for website. Full Story is both for apps and also for web application and for sites. Full Story does that also. You also have UXCam. UXCam also does like screen record. Right, it takes a little bit of time to work with developers so as to cover out the sensitive details of users. So you have that situation where you can see when somebody logs in, what happened. You can check the devices that are hanging. Is there like a rage tab? Are people clicking on a particular place where they are not supposed to click? Those are the things you want to look at, and UX can just help you to do that, right? It gives you that mobile analytics functionality. Same with SmartLook. SmartLook might be a go-to place because it's pretty cheaper compared to the other ones, and it's very, very good. It does screen recording too, especially for mobile app analytics also. So you want to check that out. SmartLooks also work for the normal web app and such like. So you want to be able to do mouse tracking, click tracking, and all that. To some extent, Google also helps to do scroll tracking and all that. Except, well, another way to actually just check maybe the scroll depth is to use Google Tag Manager, where you have like your scroll events to see how well people are scrolling on a particular page. So things like, are people even scrolling to a particular point? You want to check all those kind of things. So those are some of the tools you can use. Another thing within the within the Research Excel model is the qualitative analysis, where you actually go and ask your users question. You have to ask your qualitative survey based on what you are trying to improve. You don't just ask random question. If people are not getting activated, are you sending a survey to them to know, when you segment your audience and you know the people that have been activated? If it's a fintech app, that means they've done their first transaction. For people that have not done their transaction, maybe in the last 20 days, why have they not done it? You need to ask why. You need to ask why. Since our goal is to get more people to take action, start with learning about friction. What are their fears? What are their doubts? What are their hesitations? What do they? Because you can't measure some of those things with Google Analytics or mouse tracking. No, let them tell you the why. Because you are dealing with human beings. You are not dealing with numbers. Sometimes as marketers and growth marketers or CEOs, we think in terms of numbers. How many people do we have now? How many people? But they are humans. So they have internal things that are that's going on internally within their mind while they are scrolling through your product. So you want to know. So every page on your site or every screen within your app, you know, should be based on, your survey should be based on a particular screen or a particular thing, not general wide survey. Fix a particular thing, because what you are trying to get to is one metric that actually matters at that particular point in time. And then you can use SurveyMonkey. There's the free version. I think you can get up to 100 surveys. And then you can also do the paid version. You also have Google Form. Google Form is free. You can use Google Form. You don't have to spend any money on that, because it's also free. Gather your data, ask your questions. Then the other thing is user testing. The premise of user testing is simple. Observe actual people use and interact with your website or your app while they are commenting through commenting their thought process, while that is different from the UXCam. That is a screen record. That has happened. They are not commenting. The essence of user testing is to be able to know what is in the mind of people as they are using it in that current time, as they are using it right then. So user testing gives you direct input on how real users use your site. You may have designed what you believe is the best user experience in the world, but watching real people interact with your site is often a humbling experience because you are not your users, you are not the market. And we have some tools out there. You have user testing, quite popular, that you can use to do this. Usually, you have to maybe like pay some of those people as they use it. They will tell you their genuine feedback. If they don't know maybe where to navigate to, they will say it's like, well, I'm supposed to click here. Where am I supposed to click? You will know. You will now know whether your stuff is intuitive or no. You will also have maze. Maze also help you to unlock customer insights. So it's like a competitive site to user testing. So you have that. Then you also have copy testing. Your copy, what you are saying, this is the point where we need to test your copy. Now, realize that we are supposed to be talking about gathering ideas, the browse process, but we are saying do all this first. If it's a screen or a page or the one metric that matter, you want to do all this first. You want to conduct copy testing because it will help you to answer this. That means those are your words. You want to conduct a test on your words. What does your headline make people feel? Do they care about the arguments you are making? Which benefits are they most interested in? If you are listing benefits, do they even understand the copy in the third paragraph? After reading everything, what remains unclear to people? But how do you know that? We also have tools. Tools. We have this particular tool. It's called Winter. I think it was developed by the founder of CXL, Pip Laja. So this is also one. Usually this is for big size organization, but I think there's another one. It's called Maze. Maze has another solution that helps you to just to do that because people will comment on the copy, what it makes them feel, how they're thinking about it. So you have tools out there that does all these things. So you have your copy testing. Another one that is pretty free. This one is free compared to the other two. Is to just use the CoSchedule headline analyzer, but this is specifically for headline and it's free. If you have like an headline or even just you can use it to test any copy, even though it's called an headline analyzer. You can use it to test any copy. You paste your headline or your copy here and you analyze. It analyzes this in percentage because it's looking for things like emotion words, uncommon words, common words, and power words. Power words are the words that trigger specific kind of emotion that make users to take the action that you want them to take, right? It drives higher click-through rate. So CoSchedule Headline Analyzer is a free resource by CoSchedule that you can actually use for your copy also. So that brings us to the end of that Research Excel model as we move towards gathering our ideas. So do not try to gather ideas when you've not concluded your Research Excel to ensure that you have insights on all areas about your business. So Research Excel is not just for improving one metric that matter for a particular page, but it's something that you ought to do as a prerequisite to the browse process. So we've taken a look at the heuristic analysis, mouse tracking analysis, web analytics analysis, user testing, copy testing, qualitative survey, and technical analysis. It's when you've done that, then you can now start thinking about brainstorming ideas because see, you may not need to do any experiment to improve a metric if you've done your Research Excel. Maybe it was just your copy. That's all. Maybe something was just wrong with your copy and it's not resonating with people and you want to fix that. Don't need to go and do A, B, C, D, E copy. Test it first. You can test ahead your copy. You can use headline analyzer ahead to check, things like that. So this is the point where you then brainstorm whatever ideas you want about the one metric that matters. This is by the platform called Digital Leadership, and they give brainstorming techniques that you can use. The first is to let your ideas flow naturally. Don't limit it when you're coming up with ideas. Build and develop your ideas more and more because you can think about it individually, not just within a group. Consider visual brainstorming. Draw what you are thinking about. I mean, it's a good idea to make alternative plans. Stay focused on the target of the topic that you are brainstorming about. You also have the six, Edward de Bono's six art thinking, right? Can help you to think about how to solve that problem. So, for example, you are trying, again, let me go back to the FinTech app. What you are trying to improve is that KYC completion because if you don't have KYC completion, people cannot take the transaction. You have the Blue Hat. The Blue Hat plans and organizes the thinking process, helps you to organize like a framework. How should I think about this? Then the Yellow Hat thinks of the good things and all the benefits of the idea you are thinking about. Like, okay, what are the benefits of this idea that I'm thinking about? You have to think about it. It helps you to think, actually. So I use it sometimes. The white art thinks of the facts. What are the facts? Maybe from industry analysis. What have people said about this kind of thing before? You need to gather the facts. You have the black art. The black art thinks about the problem of that idea. Yeah. So you have to be pessimistic. This is where you put on a particular thinking cap. When you are pessimistic, think of the problems, the concerns, the difficulties of the ideas. And then you have the red heart. This thinks of feelings. What does my heart say? This is part of that gut feeling where you, even though you call it thinking, but it's like an intuition. This is the intuitive part of your thinking about the idea. And then the green heart thinks of possibilities and the creative idea, something that is just out of the box, right? If you use this framework about any idea, as you pen each of them down, it will be very helpful to you. Sean Ellis, that person who coined the word growth hacking, said the growth lead of any organization has to set up a project management system to coordinate easily the submission and management of ideas, as well as tracking and reporting of results. The more ideas that go into your pipeline, the better your chances of finding winners that spur growth. So you need a lot of ideas. When asked that out of this whole process of grouse, out of this whole process, which one is the most important at the end of the day? Which one is the most important? Let me, I know you answer, I can't see whether you answer, but the most important one is the idea. Because it's the idea that feeds up to the point of studying. Because if you don't have idea, you can't rank. If you don't rank, eventually you can't outline. You can't work on that idea. Ideas are the things that feed growth. At the end of the day, I do believe that even if a lot of people don't have, all the technical skill about growth, people who can come up with great ideas are actually, great growth hackers. If you can come up with those great ideas. Okay, so let's move on. So we've looked at the gathering of your ideas, right? Now we move to the ranking of the ideas. This is not something that one person does. Multiple people do this. The next thing is that if you have 10 ideas, 15 ideas, you have 3 people within the company, they gather 5 ideas that I think we can do this to improve the KYC completion. And then you have 15 ideas together. You can't do all the ideas at once. You have to pick one. How are you going to know the one that you need to pick? The way to do it is to find like a framework, a prioritization framework. How do we prioritize the one that we can do right now, right? So this is the second part, which is ranking. Rank R is for ranking those ideas and prioritizing them. To do that, we use prioritization frameworks, and there are a lot of prioritization frameworks. Yeah, I would say there are a lot, and they are unique for different users. But they allow you to use a semi-scientific way. It's semi-scientific because people are going to score this thing based on their own what they think. People will score this based on what they think because individuals will rank these ideas too, and then we collate that ranking, right? So that and the idea is so that we can find out which one has the highest score, and that's the one you will start experimenting on right now. That's the idea. We have the BRASS framework, we have the PIES framework, we have the ICE framework. Let me quickly look at, these are the most popular ones maybe within growth hack. You have the BRASS, which is typically used for the awareness and acquisition experiments. Typically, you don't use BRASS framework for something like retention or revenue, but you don't even use it for activation. And you understand the reason why it is used for awareness and activation. You have other growth hacking experiments framework like the PI model, which is the potential, the importance, and the ease. You also have the impact, the confidence and effort, which is the high CK. So for the BRASS framework, what does B means? A B actually means blink, which means what's your gut feeling. This is one of the reasons why it is semi scientific. You rank each of these things from 1 to 5. If you truly believe that, yes, I believe that this idea will work, it is 5. Because you are ranking other people's own also, let's say you see someone saying, I feel like, okay, you know what? I don't think this thing will work. That's just your gut feeling. There's nothing to it. It's just a gut feeling. But of course, I believe that our gut feelings are also because of the experiences we have, the information we expose our minds to over a long time. Then we have relevance. This is where you have the product channel fit. Can you remember when we did the product channel fit? So you rank that one 1 to 5. Then you have availability. Availability has to do with how easy is this thing to do. Is he okay? Maybe it's a great idea, but it's hard to do, or to cost money, or will it cost time? Is it scalable? Is it a kind of idea that if we do it now, it will work for a while, but we can't really scale it? It can't grow. It has limitations, you know. Then you rank it based on that. And so usually we create something that looks like this, where everybody have their own, we fill out a page, but everybody scores it, right? You have your name of the idea, the description of the idea, and then there's a score of 1 to 5. So the blink, like I said, is the gut feeling. How do you feel, or what do you feel about this particular stuff? You have your gut feeling, you have the relevance. The relevance has to do with the product channel fits. Remember, we did like channel fits the other time, right? Remember channel fits? Let me bring you back to it. So when you've done channel fits, you've looked at your value proposition, and okay, you like, okay, the values here, the kind of customer we are looking for, their pain points, are they on this specific channel? You know, you've looked at this, you've gone through your channel fit already. That can help you to know whether you want to rank this thing between 1 and 5, whether the relevancy, right? So that's where it actually comes to play, where you have your channel fit here. You've gone through this. That this can inform whether you want to rank it 1 to 5, right? Then you have availability. Availability has to do with how quick can we do this? Is it easy? Is it very costly? Then you have scalability. Can it scale, right? Can it scale? Is it something that is limited, right? And then you multiply the score. So that makes it the brass score. So in this example, you have experiment 7, experiment 4, and experiment 5 as the topmost one. Which experiment are we going to pick first? We're going to pick experiment 7 because it ranks the highest. It ranks the highest. So that's the one we're going to do for, because it ranks the highest. So, and we also have the PIES framework. I'll just jump into that. The PIES framework is used for the other parts of the funnel. The potential here means how big of an uplift do we estimate that the change will bring? What's the potential for this thing, right? What's the potential? Do you think it's going to be big? How big is it going to be? And you know, you rank that. Then you have importance. How much traffic does the page get? You know, and are you investing in lots to get those visitors? Like, what's the importance, right? What's the importance? And then you have the ease, similar to what we had in availability. How simple is this thing to fix? Is it too costly? Is it very hard? Is it going to take a long time, you know, to do? Then you rank it from 1 to 5, right? So that's and this is very similar to the HICE framework, where you have impact, confidence, and effort, right? In fact, I think the difference is probably the confidence and maybe the potential for the HICE framework. Like I said, we have a lot of frameworks that people use. So you have potential, you have importance, then you rank it just like you did for the PIES framework. So these are a lot of frameworks that are being used today. You have the RISE framework, which means reach, impact, confidence, and efforts. You have the ICE framework. You can choose any one, really. You can learn more about each of these frameworks, but pick one of it to prioritize your experiments, right? Pick one of these to prioritize any of your experiments. I mean, BRAS is usually used, like I said, for awareness and acquisition because of the channel market fit part. That channel market fit is part of the reason why BRAS is being used, which is the R in the BRAS. That's the relevance, right? Because that may not be useful for something else that you are trying to growth hack. So you have a lot of prioritization framework out there. Pick one. Usually I use the BRAS framework and I use the PI framework. So Andrew Chen states, he said, creativity combined with rapid iteration are the keys to making progress on user growth. Remember that you can get to 10x growth by combination of 2xing a few different metrics. Like I said at the beginning of this event, of this module, I did say that Amazon did not growth hack the way maybe Dropbox growth hack. They just grew and grew. They improved a lot of small things, right? So the age of, oh, we've caught one eureka moment and it gave us a flood of users has changed, or it changed one something major. But every 1% increase in your metrics is improving at the company. As long as it's a 2% increase in something in a metric is a huge one. If you increase something by 2%, so your KYC completion rate, let's say, is 10%, then you did something, it improved to 13%, and it stays that way, but maybe something worked. Then you do something else, and it lifts to 17%. That's good. So that's the idea. So that combined rapid iterations, rapid means you are very fast. Speed is the name of the game when it comes to growth. So they all multiply together to be 10x when you 2x in several places. So if you can brainstorm a lot of ideas, like I said, going for quantity over quality. I know people look for quality ideas, but we can help ourselves to know how to come to solutions also. You actually have a lot of ideas to evaluate for impact versus cost. So we should run an organization that helps people to be able to bring their ideas and solutions forward. Then the next, having looked at the gather ideas, rank ideas, the next thing we look at is the outlining of your experiments, because now you've ranked the ideas. Now it's time to actually outline the experiments. The third part is the whole for outlining an experiment design. That's basically the part where we take our highest rank ideas and we design an experiment which we'll execute to verify whether that was a great idea or not. We have to verify if something was a great idea or not. So to outline an experiment, we use what we call the experiment sheet. This experiment sheet has 4 parts. What you believe, how you will verify it, and what you will measure, what conditions needs to be met to say whether you are right or not. That's the way it works, and it looks something like this. This is what we use. You name your experiment 00, give it a nomenclature so that you can know what you did, because documentation is very important. So in this template you have, we believe that if we run an A/B experiment where A forces you know, complete users to complete, like where we, oh, sorry, if we run an A/B experiment where A of the A/Bs, right, maybe we have like 2 screens within our app, where A forces users to complete KYC before doing any other thing on the platform, and B being the existing UI, that's the control, like that one you can navigate, you don't have to complete uh, um, for onboarding. We will have 60% more KYC completion in A compared to B, right? So that's what you believe. You believe that it forces people to finish. We don't know. That sounds good because we feel like every other thing within the app is a distraction. Want to force you to complete your KYC. So if you log out and log in again, if you are part of the A people, you will be forced to do that KYC. Um, to verify, how are we going to verify that? Dev and product team will work with Amplitude to create the A version of the onboarding, right? So we have like an A version because Amplitude, the platform Amplitude can help to do that. And so remember, you have the description here, describe your experiments. I'm going to share all these materials so that we can have access to the templates. So what are we going to measure? I'll measure what? KYC completion rate for both A and B. That's what we're going to measure. That's what? KYC completion rate equals number of users that complete KYC divided by the number of signups. So because users are forced to do one thing per time and they are not distracted by other features, thereby dropping off, that is what we are going to measure, KYC completion. How do we know that we are right? We are right if I already mentioned it before, we believe that. We are right if there is a 60% lift for A compared to B version. That is 60% more KYC completion in A compared to B. Then you have the results that, okay, A has whatever, B has so. Okay, based on these results, what do we do? Right? That will then be the next step. So that's how it is. So the essence of the experiment sheet or outline is it has a reason. It's just for clarity. It helps you to know the objective you are serving, your hypothesis, your start and your end dates. You should also include it there. the metrics you will be using, the pages that will be affected, or the screens that will be affected, or the events that will be affected in this particular case, KYC completion, who you are targeting, right? If it's like related to maybe awareness and acquisition, what's your analysis and conclusion? What's the next iteration or the next step? What will it actually be? We have a lot of templates like that where people can actually outline their experiment. Like this, where you can put an experiment name. So if you are conducting experiments in your organization, then you can actually document that down, right? That's very similar to the one we just looked at right now, but this is the one that I use. Yeah. So Paul Graham says something. He said, whenever you hear anyone talk about growth hacks, in quote, oh, we're growth hacking something, he said, just mentally translate it in your mind to bullshit. Because, and why is that? David said something. He said, what people call growth hack is usually running through as many experiments as possible until we find something beautiful that works perfectly. We call it the golden nugget, the silver bullet, the growth hack. It's that beautiful moment when you found a perfectly working playbook that will help your company to grow. Morgan Brown says this. He said, it's a feedback loop. The growth process is designed to be a positive feedback loop to find small wins, not a major arc. Small wins and optimization across the business, and then compound those over time as fast as possible. So that is how we outline our experiments. The next one is going to be we doing the actual work. This is the real work. This is where we do the actual work. This is where we do the actual experiment. This is the real work. All the other things are just planning, gathering ideas, doing research, before you gather your ideas, ranking the ideas, outlining the experiments. This is where the work is. The real work, 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 work. That is the W here. The next part of the process, like he said, is the W. It's the work, 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 get shit done. This is really the part where you see the difference between the highly competitive company or team. Productivity. This is the place where people actually grind. And the one that comes back, the differentiate between highly competitive company or the ones that come back 2 weeks later with excuses. This is the real deal here. Every other thing is just the planning. This is where the issue is right here. This is where the work is being done. Because if it's not done, you can't verify that you ran any experiment or you did anything major. Now, experimentation is not synonymous with A/B testing. So this does not mean that you always have to run A/B tests when you are gathering ideas. Not everything is A/B testing. No. You can run an experiment without running a test. So there can be an experiment where you just include something somewhere, include another thing somewhere. However, that doesn't mean that in your experiments, you shouldn't have some things that are A/B testings or testings. No. Take advantage of it if you can, but only when it makes sense. Some things are just add something else, add something there. Some things are just basically, maybe something is already working, right? You have a landing page and you've tested that the landing page is converting well, and you just want to know whether something is going to, maybe you read about color psychology and they told you that maybe green color does something. Green color means something, and you wanted to test that. What you are testing is just one small thing based on color psychology. Then maybe you can experiment on that, right? But it's not everything that, maybe you can A/B test on that. You can test on that, right? So experimentation or experiments does not always mean that you have A and B every time. Not every time necessarily, because sometimes you don't have a control experiment. You want to bring in something that is new, maybe that is not there before. Sometimes you're not trying to compare two things in your experiments. You're not necessarily trying to compare two things. You're just trying to introduce something new. So, and you must be able to use testing only when it is necessary. And when you are doing A/B test, by the way, when you are doing like experiments, particularly A/B testing, where you have a control and you have the real experiment, right? So we usually use what we call the ROA method. The ROA method. The ROA method simply it's like a graph. If you check on the horizontal part, you see the conversions per month over time. The the horizontal part is the time span, right? So it's broken down into stages when you are running your experiment over time, because sometimes maybe things can change. So you have the risk stage, the optimization stage, the automation stage, and the rating stage. Usually, when you are running an experiment, you are only really sure that the A/B tests, we're talking about A/B tests now, you must have had at least 1,000 conversions for that particular metric. Like I said, maybe 1,000 conversions for KYC, you must have had it. And when you are comparing the A to the B, there must be a 15% impact for you to justify that this experiment for KYC completion is real. If you have 1,000 conversions, you must be able to say at least like 15, so that you don't have a fluke or false positive, right? So 15% is usually what is recommended. Like you have that 15% lift or jump. Once you have that, the next thing you do is that you optimize for it. Yeah, you optimize for it. So now you are now in that stage where you can say, okay, let's optimize. Let's maybe throw away A. Now let us use B. That's the optimization. And over time, you're using now. If there's something that that can now be automated, you automate it, right? Once you get to the automation phase, what usually happens next is that once you check whether you've had up to 10,000 conversions, you will need to see, right? I mean, you need to like do like another, I say like another experiment in quotes, just to retest, just to be sure that the experiment you did with maybe 1,000 is true or not, because you want to be sure. So you run that experiment when you have gathered, as you can see, it's a graph that is growing, right? When you have gathered that kind of conversions, and then do like an A/B test to see whether you will have like a 5% impact or 5% difference, and then you have a rating stage later on as you grow beyond 10,000 conversions per month. So usually we used to run on it. There's something for you to think about when you are thinking about the A/B test. But the one thing that I'm pointing out is the 15% impact, which is very important. You have at least 1,000 conversions, because if you run A/B test and you have only 500, it's too small. The data is too small. It's too small, right, to judge whether what you're saying is the experiment, what you're trying to prove is real or not. We use if you have the growth guy within your organization, we use this particular A/B test size to like, okay, how much size do I have, or how much size do I need to have to run my experiments? It's an A/B test calculator that you can use. There's an A/B test calculator that you can use. This is the link. Now, Jeff Bridges said something, which was what I was saying about Amazon. He said our success at Amazon is a function of how many experiments we do per year. So they ran a lot of experiments. He said how many experiments we do per year, per month, per week, per day. So constantly trying things based on data, right? Based on data, right? And so once you've done your experiment, you've gone to work, what does the data say? And that brings us to that last part of the growth process, of the growth process. So the last part of the growth loop is actually one of the most important, but it's one of the ones where people spend the least time when you don't study the data. That's very bad. It's the S, which is to study. Study the results of your experiment. Now, what tends to happen is we look at the hard quantitative data of our experiment. But what's really important is to look at the qualitative reasons why an experiment won or failed. Quantitative data means that you are just checking, okay, 15%, add all numbers. But you should be asking yourself, why did it work? Because if you don't know why, how are you going to scale it up? You have to know the why. So you have to ask yourself the why of your experiment. Why did this work? Because this is how we can learn more about our customers and learn more also about our products, right? And now we can make our next experiments even stronger. So here are some questions you might ask of your experiments. Did you execute the experiment properly? Was that the process? Did you follow the right process? If your experiment was incorrect, maybe that's why it didn't work. Or if it was incorrect, but there was still a lift, what was it that was incorrect that you stumbled into that should now become your part of your process or part of what you are going to optimize? You need to know, would the results be different if we segmented the data? You ask yourself those questions. Or maybe because we did it for only people in Abuja, I mean for Nigeria, what if we compare between Lagos and Port Harcourt, will it give us the same thing? People in Lagos, do they complete KYC faster than people in Port Harcourt? You want to ask yourself this question. Should you optimize the experiment and run it again? Maybe we should optimize it, then run it again. Remember, we talk about the ROA. Maybe you had 15%, run it again. Now, if your hypothesis is also correct, why? What can you take away from the experiment to run smarter future experiments? Like, okay, we are going to do this in the future experiments. So again, this is that sheet where you have your results also. That same experiment sheet. Include your results there and detail the next steps, the next things you are going to do. The next step can either be another experiment or something that you are just going to use within the company. So that's the end of the grouse process, right? The G, which stands for gathering ideas, the R, which stands for ranking ideas, the O, outlining experiment, the W, the work, and the S is the studying of the data, right? In conclusion, I asked ChatGPT this question. What do top CEOs and growth managers say about achieving high-speed growth for startups? What do they say? And I'll just read that as we conclude this. Achieving high-speed growth for startups is a topic of interest for many CEOs and growth managers. Here are some perspectives from top CEOs and growth experts on this subject. Number one, Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn. Blitzscaling is a term coined by Reid Hoffman, which refers to prioritizing speed and scaling at an accelerated pace to achieving rapid growth. According to Hoffman, startups should focus on quickly capturing market share and gaining competitive advantage through aggressive expansion, even if it means sacrificing short-term profitability. Brian Chesky, the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb. Chesky emphasizes that the importance of product market fit as the foundation for high-speed growth. He suggests spending considerable time and effort in understanding customers and building a product that truly meets their needs. Chesky believes in creating a culture of experimentation and continuous improvement, where data-driven decision-making and rapid iteration are key to scaling and achieving growth. Sean Ellis, the founder of Growth Hackers. Sean Ellis advocates for a data-driven approach to growth, focusing on experimentation, measurement, and optimization. He promotes the concept of growth hacking. In fact, he's the pioneer, which involves rapid experimentation and innovative tactics to drive user acquisition, activation, retention, and referral. Ellis emphasizes the importance of setting clear goals, prioritizing strategies, and fostering a growth mindset throughout the organization. Chamath, CEO of Social Capital. Chamath emphasizes the need for startups to have a compelling vision, a strong value proposition, and a scalable business model to achieve high-speed growth. He advises startups to focus on creating a product that solves a real problem, generating strong product market fit, and then aggressively scaling by leveraging data and technology. Andrew Chen, partner at Andreessen Horowitz. Chen emphasizes the importance of understanding and optimizing for the key drivers of growth in a startup business model. He suggests identifying and focusing on the highest leverage areas that drive user acquisition and retention. Chen highlights the significance of developing a growth loop, where the product itself becomes the primary driver of acquisition and retention through inherent viral and network effects. These perspectives highlight the importance of factors such as product market fit, data-driven decision-making, rapid experimentation, scalability, and a focus on user acquisition and retention as key drivers of high-speed growth for startups. Every business may need to adapt these insights to their unique context and industry, but the underlying principles can guide their own strategies. Thank you, and I hope you learned something from this entire course on growth hacking and customer acquisition. Let's keep growth hacking. Bye.